I've seen this question many times from Bricks beginners. Just getting started with Bricks, how should I be using classes? Should I be putting a class on every element? I've seen Ben mentioned, and I'm not sure what it is, or if I need it. Good question, Keith. But first, why does this even matter? Well, if you're building sites manually in Bricks and you don't have a system for when and how to use classes, well, that is just going to lead to a ton of mental overhead, inefficient builds, and a site that is going to be a nightmare to maintain, even 6 months down the line. But even more importantly, in these days of AI-assisted workflows, if you don't have a clear system, then your AI assistant definitely doesn't either. It's going to go off and randomly create classes however it likes, with no system, no logic, and guess who is going to be left clearing up the mess? That's right, it's you. So by the end of this video, you're going to have one clear rule. It's going to be simple enough for you to follow yourself, and also clear enough for you to hand to your AI friend. There are really only 3 questions when it comes to classes. What are they for? When do you use them? And how do you name them? Let's go through them. First one's quick. What are classes for? Now, you probably already know this, but quick recap for the people at the back. Classes are reusable styles. Set once, apply anywhere, edit from anywhere. Let's see an example. Here's a quick demo page, just using a few design elements from the case study project in my 6-week Bricks Accelerator program. There's a link to that below this video if you want to check it out. But here, just check out this eyebrow text. Yes, this highly useful design device for adding useful context to headings, now unfortunately ruined by AI slop, which is a shame. Anyway, the idea is I'm going to want to apply a style to this eyebrow text, but also I'm going to want to reuse those styles in other places across the site, and certainly on this page. I need to edit this first. This is actually part of a component, a hero header component. You do not need to know about components for this particular lesson. So just to say, what I need to do first is edit the component, and then I can now select this basic text element. So if I wanted to just style this element directly, then I would just come down here into the style tab and style away. However, I want these styles to be reusable across multiple different elements across the site. And so rather than styling the element directly, I instead need to create a class. You probably know this already. So I'll click into the classes field. I'll create a class and I will spell it properly eventually. Label text. I'll talk to you about strategies for naming classes a little bit later on. So I can hit save or just hit return on my keyboard. So now that has created the class, it has applied that class to this element. And also you can see here that the class is now active. It is a blue box, which signals to you that any styles that we now add are going to be attached to the class and not directly to the element itself. So let's do it. I will come down into typography, just some really simple stuff here. I would like these to be uppercase. I'd like these to be a font size smaller. We have in my variables here, text M is body size. Come down to text S, maybe one step down into XS. I think that looks good. Yes, this is part of the framework that we build as part of Bricks Accelerator. And then letter spacing, I'm just going to pop in a 1 pixel. Pixels are normally evil. We normally don't touch pixels, but for really small values like this, pixels are fine. It doesn't really matter either way. So I think that is looking good as a general style for these kind of labels. It's an eyebrow text here, but that is great. And you can see, because I applied these styles with the class active, now any of these styles have a blue dot next to them. Blue dot means it is part of a class. And so with that done, now let's find other elements that I want to reuse these same styles. And let's have a look down here. Okay, we've got one here in the cards, in this card grid. I will select a card. So you can see here, if I just open this up in the structure panel, where are we? Into this one here. Each of these cards is a component. Because it's a component, I have to edit the component. Again, Components are nothing to do with this lesson, but I just need to access the elements in order to style them. And so this also here is just a basic text element. And to reuse those same styles, all I need to do is, well, I'll start typing label to filter it down, and there it is. And now, boom, instantly that element also has the label text styles applied. And if you come into style and into typography, there you go. Now, interestingly here, if you're eagle-eyed, you might notice that the other components haven't taken on that style. They should. I think that might be a little bug. If I was going to just save this page and then refresh, and now let's have a look down, and there you are. That's the whole point of a component. Any changes, any style changes that you make to one of them updates all other instances of that component as well. So that is good. This has a class of label text, and these, like metadata, also have the same class. So that is also being applied. I think I'm going to apply this here to this pagination as well. So we have this pagination container. I could apply this to the container or the pagination text. So I'll just go with this one here. Again, this is our label text, instant styling, and one more. Now this copyright information down at the bottom also needs the exact same styling. So this is part of the footer. So I will edit the footer, it opens up in a new tab. And then let's just select here. What have we got? So in the structure panel, you can see here that we have copyright text, and we also have legal links as well. And I want to apply this class, these reusable styles, to both of these elements. So I will apply the class in this case to their parent, and then that style will just trickle down to everything inside it. So with that selected, come over to the left hand side into the settings, start typing label again, choose that, and now we have those same styles. So that was the easy bit, but the key for this video is when to use them. Now you may have seen other people's Bricks tutorials where they add classes to absolutely everything, and they may even also be using something called BEM to do so. Now if you've not heard of BEM before, it is a naming convention for classes. The thing is, BEM was designed to solve a problem that doesn't exist in Bricks at all. I'll show you why in a second. Now just let me be clear, I am throwing no shade on BEM whatsoever. In fact, I use it myself. But in Bricks, we are able to keep it much more simple. Here's why. There are 3 reasons that Bricks specifically allows us to have a pretty simple policy for when to create a class. The first one is theme styles. So if we come to styles, into theme styles, here we can set all kinds of global typography and colors and spacing that are already handled site-wide, and so no class is needed. So for example, I've dropped in this button, I've dropped in these H2 headings in the card. I think down here in the footer we have some just standard body copy. All of those styles are set globally in theme styles, and because in this particular case I didn't need to override those styles, then no class required. Just add the element and move on. The second reason is that Bricks does allow us to directly style elements without needing to set a class. And that then allows us to have a rule that if it is a one-off style that is not going to be repeated or reused, then there's no class strictly needed. For example, if we have a look here in the site header, so I have the logo, and here you can see I have set a style, I set a width of 11 rem, but this logo, this particular style, this particular size, isn't going to be reused across the site. It's a different size in the footer, for example. So there's no strict need to create a class at all to style it. I can just style the element directly. Similarly with the navigation, this main navigation exists in one place on this site, inside the site header template. And I do have a few styles. I've got a particular gap, and I've got some typography, which I think is making the text small. But I didn't need to create a class here to set those styles because those styles exist in one place. I don't need to reuse them. And the third reason we can have a pretty simple policy for creating classes is components. I always recommend if you have an element or group of elements that you need to reuse across the site and they need to maintain the same style, then create a component. So for example, here we have a hero header component. Again, this lesson is not about components, but I've created some properties here. like properties for this instance of the component to, for example, show and hide different elements and also change the content for this instance. But if I edit any instance of this component, I am now editing, you can think of it as like the master copy or the single source of truth. So any styles that are set in this component, for example, this heading, this is just a heading element. I actually wanted it though to be one step bigger than H1. In the framework we build in Bricks Accelerator, this is one step above H1, H display. And yes, I could have created a class here to set that font size on it, but there's no need. It's not going to be reused anywhere outside of this component. Yes, we will be using this particular component across multiple different pages of this site, but just because of the way components work, the whole point of them is that I can edit any of those instances, change the styling, and that styling updates across all instances, right across the site. No classes strictly required. And so it begs the question. We have 3 reasons there not to have to create a class. So when do we need to create a class? Well, I would say the decision is this. Create a class when you need the same style in more than one context, like across multiple components or even not components. And our friend here, the much maligned eyebrow text, this set of styles has to exist inside this component, but also in our card component as well. So across 2 different components and also in places that aren't in components at all, like our pagination and in our footer and probably multiple other places right across the site. And this rule, this is also something that you could drop into, for example, a skill in the Novamira MCP or in a conventions MD file. It's one simple rule that any AI agent would be able to follow consistently, or at least you'd hope. So all that's left is how to name them. And my super simple advice is name classes semantically, meaning based on what they are and not where they're used. I think an example will help. Let's come back to our hero eyebrow text here. I'll select the basic text element and temporarily I'm just going to remove the class that I added earlier. So you might be tempted here to give this a class of something like hero eyebrow, perfectly descriptive. The problem is though, this is describing where the styles are used. And the problem with that is that this isn't going to work for all the other use cases and all the other places where we might use this class. So for example, hero eyebrow makes no sense when used for metadata in a card, makes no sense when used for pagination, makes no sense when used for the copyright and legal text at the bottom of the page. You might think, well, let's make this a bit less specific to eyebrow. It's like it's not just hero eyebrows. Basically, the same problem, which is why I decided to go for label text. Label text is generic enough. It can be applied to pretty much all use cases. It doesn't matter where it's used, right across the site. And it is a semantic name. It is describing what these styles are and not where they're used. Now, let me just make clear again that this is just one way of thinking about using classes. I am not saying that this is the only way or the right way or anything like that. I mean, for one, this is Bricks specific advice. It's based on the features and functionality that Bricks provides. Also, I would say if you're working on really big projects with many multiple developers, then this simple system is probably not the right fit. In fact, it is that particular scenario that BEM was designed to solve. But if you're working on sites with yourself or just a couple of developers and you want a simple system for naming and using classes, then this one is pretty good. Now, I teach this kind of systems and thinking, including BEM, by the way, in my Bricks Accelerator program. It's a 6-week program, live in a small group with other Bricks users from all around the world, all learning web design best practices in Bricks together. And it is always bang up to date. The link is below this video if you want to register your interest for the next cohort. Thanks for watching, like, subscribe, all that kind of thing, and I will see you soon.